All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, fellow Pandemonium travelers, this is Seattle Pandemonium Shutdown Day 345, and it's also a metered ramp. Metered ramp? Did I have a metered ramp sometime last year? I think I did. That's like the second time in like a year I've had a metered ramp getting on I-5. Just terrible. The quality of life is just decaying in this city. Anyways, what's going on? What's going down? So, day 345, we're approaching a year. I'm going to keep hyping that 365 date too. That's going to be a milestone, a bellwether, if you will. Maybe even a bellwether. So what was making the rounds today is something that I want to maybe talk out of my depth a little bit, but have a little bit of vitriol and maybe yell a little bit. So, Joe Scarborough. Who is this guy? This is one of these MSNBC hacks, like one of these everything is always terrible when Republicans do it, but I'm blind and deaf and dumb when Democrats do it. He was giving a monologue, like a journalist would. I'm not a journalist, by the way. Giving a monologue about how the Capitol Hill riot was so much different than all of the businesses that were looted and vandalized last summer, because the Capitol building is the center of our democracy. Okay. Let me try to be fair here. I'll be fair. Ooh, let me be straight. Get that fixed there. Yes, as a node in our command and control structure, in our representative, governmental system, yes, the Capitol building is a central node where stuff happens that is important. It's true. Now if Viking shaman guy had blown up the Capitol building and leveled it and killed our elected officials, I would understand this level of pearl clutching and couch fainting. I mean, that would be a shock to the system, like the Pentagon getting hit by a plane, for example. Wouldn't be good. Definitely wouldn't be good. On the other hand, there's something happening with, oh no, brakes on the bridge. Life is returning to normal. And it's gonna be terrible. Because it was terrible before. Y'all just didn't notice. Anyways, part of what's going on, whether people I feel like they want to recognize it or not, is the creation of the authoritarian police state I was told would come under Donald Trump because he was a fascist, right? Now we have permanent National Guard deployment to D.C. I'm not sure they've given an exit date for them. So basically it's like Iraq and Afghanistan now. They'll be there until we can ensure that all of our allies will be safe, I guess. They're talking about, again, targeting libertarians, conservatives, Trump voters, anyone right of Bernie Sanders, anyone with a Gadsden flag as domestic terrorists, redefining things like, freedom of assembly as white supremacist gatherings, which they're already doing with the Capitol Hill, protest, which was a lawful mass assembly. You're allowed to do that. You're not necessarily allowed to go breaking into federal buildings, but what did Scarborough say? He said something like, other people at least have said, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but other people have said that, this place is sacred. The Capitol building is sacred. sacred because of how old it is? Because in that case, in the church that was set on fire across the street from the White House was like a couple hundred years old. So it being old makes it sacred. So therefore, that would have been an insurrection or domestic terrorism or whatever, right? You remember? Remember last summer? I know a lot of people have the memory of a goldfish, but I'm not tolerating you either not remembering or pretending to not remember. Go look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. So, something I'm gonna basically borrow a talking point from someone who's smarter than me, who pointed this out, that what they're doing with this sort of show of force, with the permanent fencing around the Capitol, with the National Guard, and all this stuff, what they're doing is a show of force to try to do two things. One, demonize the Republicans, the right-wingers, the Trumpers, whatever, the MAGAs, the deplorables, by saying, look at how dangerous they are. Look at the levels we need to go to keep them under control, to keep them at bay. There's threats of terroristic, attacks and what have you, blah, blah, blah. Now, also, though, what they're doing is with this show of force is reassuring, the average, I don't know, I guess the average American, John Q taxpayer. Is that still the term we use? John Q taxpayer? That they are in control. They can keep control of the situation, at least at the Capitol building. If not the whole country. I mean, maybe the whole country, but also specifically the Capitol building because it is the seat of our democracy and all of that stuff. Now, in a Machiavellian sense, not a bad play. People really didn't like seeing Q Shaman Viking guy infiltrating the Capitol building and, Mitt Romney had to run away. It was all very traumatic, really. I mean, we went over the AOC nonsense where she basically just made up her trauma. She made up being frightened of things that weren't happening when she said that they were happening in order to spin a narrative that they were all about to be killed by deranged rioters who had, zip ties. Now, again, the guy didn't have zip ties, he had zip cuffs. But I don't know why he had them. He didn't use them on anyone. So you're speculating that he might have used them on someone had that opportunity arisen. So a figment of your imagination is supposed to make me shit myself in fear that the government was taken over because some guys, again, went in and smoked joints and took selfies at Nancy Pelosi's, desk. I can't get there, guys. I can't. And on the other hand, this idea, I find it funny. When you look at Parliament in, other countries, I don't know if there's been fisticuffs in, the UK Parliament in a while, but they, dunk on each other, they insult each other. I remember a classic one that I just happened to be watching, scrolling through, and this was years ago. Some House of Commons or whatever, these two guys are arguing, and the one guy's like, "You said that you would repeal the taxes on imports, and you've yet to even repeal the tax on gelatin." and they all laugh because he just dunked on him. It's funny, right? Now that sometimes happens in Congress, but let me give you another example. I think it was the Parliament in Taiwan, maybe Japan, where they've maybe both, I don't know, where they've broken out in all-out brawls. People are just socking each other, throwing stuff. It turns into a riot inside the government building, right? So when we're talking about the sanctity of this government building, where, if I remember correctly, again, Senator Charles Sumner was beaten to death, basically, on the floor of Congress. I guarantee you, People have blasted rails of cocaine in there. They've banged secretaries. They've had gay hookups in bathrooms. Guaranteed. People cuss under their breath and they fart in there. It's just the sanctity of my old government building. Yeah, where you guys have voted consistently to deficit spend, sell the next generations of Americans down the river financially, economically, go to war, destroy other countries, shut down the Keystone Pipeline. That was an executive order, but just do all kinds of awful things. But my super special magic old building is defiled in some way that means more than a mom and pop shop that is literally their livelihood and is a source of value to the community getting destroyed, doesn't matter as much. To circle back here, because, we're circling back now. Circle back is what we do. So, I know that I'm having a one-way conversation here, but I'm not wrong. Right? I mean, I'm not wrong that, there's this stupid double standard. The media are now back in the tank for not just Biden, but I assume Democrats in general. This isn't a surprise. So stop being surprised. Stop being outraged that there's a double standard. We know. I know. We all know. Right? So the surprised part is the part that you need to get over, or the can you believe it aspect. Yes, I can believe it. It is happening. We see it in front of us. As, again, not even really a conservative and not a Republican, I'm not quite sure what to do about it per se, but it is happening. Double standards online, in the media, in politics, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so act knowing that there's this double standard, okay? And if any lib happens to stumble upon my content and is trying to orient what I'm saying, let's go back to statism and how you have now created the police state that you were told Donald Trump was going to create. Now, I'm not saying there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans. There is. I think it mostly depends on where you are in the country. But what you're doing is statism. You are now accepting statism because you think your team is in power. And it will only be when you're part of a Facebook group that is anti-corporate that they will then say, oh, you're a radical business person. You're in a radical Facebook group. And then they surveil you. And they surveil your family. And then they drone strike somebody. I remember back during the, what was that national park building that those guys took over down in Oregon. It lasted for a few days. It was a standoff with the feds. It's kind of stupid to take over this building, whatever. But people were saying, well, Obama should just drone strike them. Think about what that means. They want you, if you're a lib listening to this, you are okay with Wacos every day in order to achieve your objective, whether you realize it or not. Okay? Democrat executive branch at the time, anyway, of Waco, you are okay with people being killed who differ from you politically or ideologically, and you don't have a problem with the federal government coming in and icing everybody. Because that's what happens. Okay? Now, to be fair, apparently a lot of Biden voters didn't necessarily realize what they were getting themselves into. Now, what's the story today? Today was the story, was Kamala Harris allegedly, I'll say allegedly, taking calls for Joe Biden with foreign leaders. Are we learning yet? Are we picking up anything? Anything at all? Is anything registering with you guys? See how I'm like talking to a straw man liberal now? This is kind of fun. But no, I mean, let's just go back to Joe Scarborough. Some, again, bubble dwelling, champagne socialist, lib, probably has armed security while advocating for gun control for you, for me, for everyone else. Basically saying, no, mom and pop stores getting looted doesn't matter, but the Capitol building getting some windows broken out, that is just sacrilege. Think of the framing again, the framing here. It's like it's a modern cathedral. Cathedral, there's a good term. It's a cathedral. It's a holy place. You can't fart in here like everyone else does. You can't nod off and fall asleep like Joe Biden used to. It's a sacred place. You can't just come marching in here and smoke a joint and like leave and then everything resumes normal operations like an hour later. That's just unacceptable. Think of the framing, and where is this framing when it comes to like that courthouse down in Portland that was besieged by rioters for like 6 months last year, throwing garbage at it, throwing garbage at police officers, throwing explosives at people. We didn't hear anything from the media about poor law enforcement getting abused by these rioters when it was the leftists doing it. Okay? So again, don't be surprised. This is not new information. This is the situation that you're in. This is the ecosystem. But there it is. And Joe Scarborough will never have to respond to me, never have to respond to anyone else making any similar criticisms. Will just keep blathering into his camera and his reading his teleprompter because they pretend people like me don't exist. When I get my dozens of viewers every day, dozens, and I know some of you see what I see because you tell me, oh yeah, I like that. That was a good point, right? So I'm one of many voices that is not on a mainstream news channel. And again, this is something a lot of other people have pointed out, is that long term, I think that mainstream news model is really in trouble because they don't get to talk to you like I talk to you. They get, they have teleprompters, they have commercial breaks, they have scheduling, they have production assistants to bring them coffee and all that. I don't have any of that. I just have my opinion and a camera. So my production costs are basically zero. My risk of saying something that alienates an advertiser is zero. My risk of alienating an audience is basically zero. I mean, I don't want to echo chamber myself or you. I don't want to be right-wing guy. I don't want to be anarchist guy. I don't want to be, just deplorable guy. I don't know. I don't want to be a thing. I want to be Kyle style. And I want to tell you what I think, not be like, oh, well, I can't tell my audience that because they're too conservative. If you're too conservative to hear what I'm saying, well then, bye. I don't need you. So I don't want to follow their model because look what their model gives you. Their model gives you Joe Scarborough waxing nostalgically or waxing almost like supernaturally about the sanctity of the Capitol building when he knows filth goes on in there. Absolute filth. Like, use your imagination levels of filth. I mean, don't. I mean, you do if you want to. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's enough for me for one day. I don't know. We're really in something not good right now, though. Like this permanent security state being so overt kind of a thing. This is not good. It's not good for us. It's not good in terms of messaging. It means we're that unstable that, like, the only thing holding back another coup is a couple thousand National Guard troops and some fences. Like, we're on the verge of becoming The Handmaid's Tale because Trump and his libertarian Gadsden flag waving followers are going to rise up and take over the Capitol again. I mean, I hope they bring guns this time, because last time it wasn't really very effective. I mean, I remember parts of Les Miserables that kind of were a little more intense than all that, and, you know, some of them had guns, so I don't know. Just saying, if you're really serious, it might look a little different than what we saw last month. And again, you're being told that we're in immense danger and Biden is keeping you safe from it. So think about that relationship. You're being fear-mongered to and told that the same thing fear-mongering to you is keeping you safe from the thing you're supposed to be afraid of. That's kind of an abusive relationship, if you ask me. Not that anyone did, but I'm talking anyway. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.